Okay, let's be honest. If the mere mention of the Blue Book makes your head spin, you are definitely in the right place. For so many of us, legal citation feels like trying to climb this huge mountain of arbitrary rules. But what if there's a simpler way to look at it? A way that's less about memorizing and more about, what it all means? Let's dive in.
So, here's what we're going to do. We'll start by talking about that common citation struggle. Then, we're going to introduce a really game-changing relationship-first approach. We'll cover some essential vocabulary you've just got to know, and then use a visual map to finally make sense of footnote signals. And by the end, we'll see how all this turns citation into a tool for making your arguments way clearer.
All right, let's start with that feeling. You know the one. That frustration of flipping through hundreds of pages, just trying to find the one exact rule for some obscure source. It feels like a memory test, right? Not like a real part of legal writing. But the reason we all struggle with this, it's probably not what you think.
And this quote right here, it just gets to the absolute heart of the problem. See, the real issue isn't forgetting a rule. It's being unsure what you're even trying to say with your citation. It's a problem of purpose, not just formatting.
And this brings us to the big idea of this whole explainer. It's about a fundamental shift in how you see things. Instead of starting with the rules, we are going to start by thinking about relationships. Just let that sink in for a second. Every single time you write a citation, all you're really doing is defining the relationship between your claim and your evidence. That's it. That's the whole game. The formatting, that comes later. It's the relationship that matters most.
So, the whole thought process boils down to this. Step 1. What are you arguing? Step 2. What does your source actually say? And then, step 3. How does that source connect to your argument? Does it support it directly? Does it maybe offer a contrast? Or does it just provide some background? Answering that question, that's the real decision you need to make. Now, before we can start mapping out all these relationships, we kind of need a basic shared vocabulary. You can think of these as the key landmarks on our citation map. We're going to use this visual guide to walk through them. And what's so great about this guide is it pulls all the core pieces of the citation world into one clean view, which we're going to break down piece by piece. First up, white pages versus blue pages. It's actually a really simple distinction. White pages are the rules for academic writing, like law review articles. Blue pages are for the documents you'd actually file in court or use in your day-to-day practice. Just know who you're writing for, and you'll know exactly where to look.
Next up is a pinpoint. All this is the specific page number where you found your information. It's absolutely crucial for being precise. Instead of making your reader hunt through an entire book, a pinpoint says, hey, the proof for my claim is right here on this exact page.
You're also going to see the term reporter all over the place. It's just a book series that collects and publishes court cases. So for example, U.S. Reports is the official reporter for the U.S. Supreme Court. Simple as that. And finally, a couple of big ones you'll see constantly. The U.S.C., or the United States Code. That's where all the federal laws passed by Congress are organized. Then there's the CFR, the Code of Federal Regulations. That's where you'll find all the rules written by federal agencies. Statutes and regulations, two totally key sources.
Okay, so we've got the vocabulary down. Now let's get to the really practical part. Footnote signals are literally the words you use to tell your reader the relationship between your claim and your source. And this is where our map becomes a seriously powerful decision-making tool.
The signals on our guide here really fall into three main buckets, and each one describes a different kind of relationship: immediately preceding, supporting, or contradictory.
All right, let's run through a few super common situations. First one, you just cited a source in footnote number 1, and now you need to cite the exact same source in footnote number 2. What do?
You use id. Yep, that's it. It's just a simple shorthand that means the same as the one right before this. This is probably the easiest citation decision you will ever make, and it's a perfect example of how these signals are designed to be efficient.
Okay, next scenario. You've made a statement and you have a source that proves your point directly. How do you signal that clear, yes, this backs me up relationship?
You use the word see. This tells your reader that the source directly states or supports your idea. Now, if you have other sources that also provide support, but maybe they're a little less direct, you can add them using see also.
But what about the opposite situation? Legal argument isn't always about agreement, right? Sometimes the most important sources are the ones that actually challenge your position. So how do you signal that?
For this, you've got signals for contradictory authority. But C is what you use when a source flat out contradicts your claim. It's how you acknowledge the counterargument. And CF is for comparing your claim to another source that deals with a similar but not identical issue.
So, as we bring all this together, you can start to see the shift, right? We've moved away from trying to memorize this endless list of rules, and we've moved toward a system for making clear, logical decisions about our arguments.
This quote just perfectly sums up this whole journey. Once you understand the purpose behind the signals and the different kinds of sources, you start to see the patterns. It becomes about recognizing a relationship and then just picking the signal that best describes it.
So let's just recap the biggest takeaways. First, your number one goal is always to communicate the relationship between your claim and your source. Second, think of this visual guide as a tool to use while you're writing, not some chart you have to study. And finally, really embracing this way of thinking will do more than just cut down on errors. It will actually make your arguments stronger and way more persuasive.
And that leaves us with one last question for you to think about. The next time you sit down to write, don't just think about formatting, think about relationships. How will viewing your citations as a map, as a strategic guide to your argument, change the way you build and defend your claims?
For more tools and reference guides, visit the L.A.W.S Toolkit.